Shalom, Kol Halal, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakaha Kwadash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors to the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers that do this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than ever. The would-be judges, the 144,000 men of the 12 tribes of Israel, who are to be the new sovereign government, representing the laws of heaven here on earth. All right, as the Lord's Prayer says, on earth as it is in heaven. All right, the other nations have no place in rulership. Only the Israelites will rule in the kingdom of heaven forever here on earth, according to the gospel. All right, and to the rest of the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that have the appearance of the heathen nations that they are scattered among, even some that look like the lady on the screen here. All right, and to the few Arkwaf that are listening and learning, to you I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you another lesson in truth. So this woman speaks a lot of truth, but she also tells lies. And I'm going to show you the lies. All right, and she admits that Jesus, or JC, his name is not Jesus. First off, that's a big lie right there. His name is Yahushai. All right, if you can study to find out the information that she gave that was correct, you could also find out that the letter J was newly created and that the letter J didn't exist. So Jehovah, Jesus, J-ish, all that stuff is out the window. All right, they were either speaking in Hebrew or they were speaking in Greek or Latin. All right, and there was no letter J. So like I said, that kills all those J words. That J sound was created in 1534, and I don't think it was really implemented into writings until 1634, because the King James 1611 Bible, intact in full with the Apocrypha, that's the way the Bible came, it had no J's in it. All right. If you read the word, that J word I hate, you would read Jesus. All right. That's what you would read. Okay. So I'm going to let her speak. This video is a short one, and she gives a lot of facts, a lot of truth, but then she shows a lot of things that are not true. And so I'm going to provide the receipts to prove, mainly in the scriptures, but also, some visuals to prove to you the things that she said that are incorrect. All right. And one thing she does say is that the Lord is brown at the end. And that's 100% true, because there's no such thing as black people. There's no such thing as white people. She's red. All right. The Edomites are red. Okay. And everyone else is a different shade of brown. And olives, all right, if you're referring to someone as olive skin, you're calling them dark, swarthy, dark brown. Okay. There is no, because olives are green. Okay. So let's matter of fact, let's make that clear right now. Okay. So they're either dark or they're green. That's an olive complexion of a skin color. Okay. This green is not. Okay. So olive complexion. All right. There's no green people walking around on this planet. Okay. There's no people like this, this color walking around this planet either. See? So if someone is olive complective, then through through reasoning, competent reasoning, because there's no green people, right? But there are people that look like this. Okay? So just keep that in mind. So here we go. Let's let her say her piece.
Man, you are fighting for your life in these comments to prove that Jesus was white. I wonder why. So first of all, tan is a shade of brown, but also since you brought up the distinction, let's discuss it. There's a difference between Hebrew, Israelite, and Jew. Hebrew refers to the oldest group of descendants of Abraham who spoke the Hebrew language using the Hebrew alphabet, which is what the Torah was originally written in.
Which, if you study, this is how you get Yahweh. And and that J word is representation of only, one tribe of Israel. And then if you're talking about a kingdom, you're talking about Benjamin, Levi, and Judah, or Yahweh, right? Which is the way you would actually say, because Yahweh is named, the Lord's name is in their name. Yahweh, right? He is. Yahweh Shai, he is the Savior. And Yahweh means, the Lord thanks. He named the tribe of what you call Judah, or Yahweh, was named for the sake of the Heavenly Father. All right, so you have Yahweh, Yahweh Shai, Yahweh. All right, which is the fourth tribe, which is the tribe that the world, who they ignorantly call JC, he came from that one particular tribe of the 12 tribes. You still have 11 other tribes, okay?
Israelite more narrowly refers to the descendants of Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel after he wrestled with God, became the 12th.
Correction. He wrestled with an angel, with a messenger. He did not wrestle with God. All right. Well, and God, in the sense that God meaning a power, yeah, he did. But he did not wrestle with the Most High himself. All right, Yahweh. That's incorrect. All right. And she's got a lot of attitudes. This chick might be Jake, man. She's kind of, like talking to the typical N-dub. But here we go.
Tribes of Israel and the nation state of Israel. So then after Babylonian exile, the kingdom of Judah was the last.
So the nation state of Israel, she's talking about those Israeli converts. And the first conversion came during the time of the Maccabees. All right. When the Herodians were put on, all right, and one of the Herodians married the granddaughter of Simon Maccabee. This is documented history. All right, you can find this in secular history as well as in the Bible. All right, and the children of that union were J-ish. They call themselves J-ish, and they were in Herod the Great and Antipater and all them. They were Edomites. They were Romans who were placed over the Israelites, who was placed over what was the remaining of the kingdom of Judah, which represented Levi, Benjamin, and Judah. Okay, and that's where they came with that J term, because it was representing those three tribes. Because the northern kingdom, right, the rest of the other half of Levi and the rest of the northern kingdom were already here in the Americas, from Canada to Brazil and all in the islands, Puerto Rico, Cuba, and all the islands there. The northern kingdom was already here, Dominican Republic, etc. Okay, they were also olive colored upon the arrival of Cristobal Colon. Okay, they were also olive colored, not the green olives, right? And the relics prove that. But here we go.
Last to fall, and so then they were referred to as the Jews, which is why we see in Esther they're referred to as Jews, because that takes place during Babylonian exile under Ahasuerus, even though Esther may have been written as late as the Hellenistic period after the death of.
Which is something that, and she wrote this down, this chick definitely has been watching videos, okay? And she responded to this, this Brown, he was a Hebrew, which are white, and that's not a lie. All right, but they're not white. Well, they're red like her. And we're talking about the Hebrew Edomites, because Jacob's twin brother Esau, which came out red, he had a skin issue. He was red all over, just like her. Okay, which made him a clean leper. Kind of like her hair. All right, how her hair has a little blonde patch. Esau came out because yellow hair is leprosy in the Bible, a thin yellow hair. If your whole head is yellow, then you're considered clean. If you have patches of yellow, you're considered unclean. Same thing with skin. So you're either clean leper or unclean leper. That was biblical leprosy, not the new pseudoscience leprosy that they call today. But the leprosy in the Bible was just as I just described it. Okay. So she's speaking a lot of truths, but she's also speaking a lot of partial truths.
Of Alexander the Great. Not the point.
Oh yeah, and Alexander the Great. Alexander conquered all of Western Asia, which they changed later on to Eurasia or Europe. Europe sits in Asia. All right. Western Asia is also the what they call the Middle East. Right, the Middle East or Western Asia being the southern part of southwestern Asia, and then northwestern Asia being what they call Eurasia. But in the Bible, it was all called Asia. Okay? Fact. As a matter of fact, let's get some receipts on that. Let's go to my... It's crazy, damn jaguar jumping in the water after an alligator or crocodile. It just popped up on my screen. But evidence folder. And what am I looking for? Oh yeah, Lenora Bursons. Keep using hers. It's a doctor that wrote a book about the Negroes and the Jews, and she knew that the Jews were, well, the Jays were actually come on, Lenora, where you at? No, I didn't delete that on accident. Well, God forbid. Here we go. But most of you who've been watching should have this screenshot. But this is in her book on page 212, and it reads: the Negroes' claim to being Jews is legitimate. The land of Israel is located in Western Asia, in the borders of North Africa. All right. That being the point. You can read the whole thing, but that being the point. And then she spoke about how the spirituals that they sang, trying to get it in focus, the spirituals never sing of African rivers. It's always the Jordan, all right, or the Red Sea. They don't sing about African chiefs or kings. It's David and or Moses or some other J-ish character from the Bible. And they're not just from the Bible, from their Bible, right? And this is in the book, The Negroes and the Jays by Lenore E. Burson. So just like, the woman on the screen, Lenora, that Job 27 and 15 is real, man. Esau's women are turning on him big time, giving up the secrets. And a lot of them are lying with Jake on a daily basis. Job 27:15, those that remain of him shall be buried in death, and his widow shall not weep. And they're not weeping for him because she's going at it. She's going at a so-called white man for claiming that JC was so-called white. And she's tearing him up, And a lot of what she says is true, but, you see all the corrections.
So Jesus would have been a first millennium Jew, and we have a lot of study between
first millennium Judean, all right?
Archaeology, art, and descriptions of what they may have looked like. And
So let's get to some of that. She said a lot of archaeology, art, and descriptions of what they may have looked like, and the main ones being in the Bible. But let's look at Professor Winchell Alexander, per example. Okay. This is the good professor. All right, this is a Wikipedia breakdown of him. I just wanted it for his imagery and nothing more, really. All right, but there he is. And Alexander Winchell, well, he was born in December 31st, 1824 in Northeast New York, February, all right, and February 19th, 1891, and Ann Hart, Michigan, was an American geologist, contributed to the field of mainly educator and popular lecturer. So this is the book that I'm holding called The Negro Question. And in this book, they have some of the things that he and other geologists spoke about the region of Europe, first millennium. All right, Professor Winchell Alexander, Our Remote Ancestry. That's the name of the book. Okay, and he was actually born in 1815. He died in 1900. But it says collection of journals, 1815 to 1900, collection of journals. Short black men came from Atlantis, north of Africa. They overran Europe, and they were known as Britons. All right, it's important that you hear that. All right, it says the Iberians are, and this is talking about the Scots and Irish, are black people with curly hair. Anthropological Review Society, London, Volume 8. All right, and this is what the Roman historian Tacitus said, the origins of black Britons. Okay, and this was before the Britons that are there now. Joseph Ritson, Annals of Caledonian Picts and Scots, Volume 2, pages 7 and 27. Picts, Brits are brown complexion with curly hair. And you always hear me say that the Picts were the real sons of Japhet, were brown complected people. Okay, and those people that were driven out of there, those were your Samoans, like Jason Momoa's people. All right, the Rock's mother, because the Rock is actually a Judite. His father is Jehoiada. All right, your race is after your father. Even though he has the look, he looks more like his mother's people, but his body is just like his father's. You ever seen his father, Rocky Johnson? All right. So let's go back to her now. Let's put her back in frame. Yeah, because I actually, I could be wrong. It doesn't really matter, but this chick might be Jake. So let's let her finish.
The closest that we can come to is our modern day Iraqi Jew. This coarse brown hair, brown eyes, this beautiful olive skin, broad wide noses. And fun fact, Jesus would have been between 5'5" and 5'6" because we love a short king.
So that would be the research that we just talked about. But here, all right, now it's true, some of these Iraqis could be the seed line of Jacob, but that's not how Jacob looked. Okay? Once again, olive colored, olive skin. And it doesn't say coarse hair, it says woolly hair. All right? Woolly hair. All right? It said hair of wool. His hair is not like wool. And definitions of wool in early dictionaries, especially anything prior to 1971, it described the hair of the short, tightly knit hair, curled hair of a Negro. So they're saying that the Lord was brown and he was short. All right, but they don't want to admit that he was, for lack of a better word, that he was a dark brown person, a so-called black person, that he was swarthy. Remember, they swapped out swarthy with black. That was done purposely. All right, because swarthy is telling you that the person had dark brown, chocolate skin, where black means, evil, dirty, etc. That's why they don't mind you calling yourself black people or black person, because that's pretty much what you're calling yourself. And I've already broken down that word so many times, and yet you still have the ignorance of our people. Some of our people referring to themselves as black and proudly. All right, it's really sad. Okay, but let's see if we can find. I might just have to grab the dictionary Bible off Might be faster in this case. Because I got a lot of definitions in here. So when I'm looking at them small on the screen, it's not easy to just pick them out. You got to kind of go shuffle through them sometimes. All right, well, this one popped into mind. I mean, this is a jasper and a sardine stone, okay? Which is spoken of how the Lord looked like jasper and sardine stone. It, refers to him as that in the book of Revelation 4 and 3. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and get that since that popped up while I was looking for that woolly hair. That's Revelation. Yeah, because it talks about his hair of wool, his skin like the burnished brass, which also looks like the same color as a jasper and a sardine stone. All right. You can't get around this stuff, man. And, in the racism of Edom, including those who might be Jake and don't know it, or that are Jake and know it because they're passing. There's some of them out there too. They still had this discontent for their own. But this is Revelation 4 and 3, and it reads, and he that sat, actually I started verse 1. The point, I'm gonna read through 3. After this, Revelation 4 and 1. After this I looked, and behold, a door was open in heaven. And the first voice which I heard was as it were a trumpet talking to me, which said, come up hither, and I will show you things that must be hereafter. So it was a loud voice. And immediately I was in the spirit, and behold, a throne was set in heaven, and one sat on the throne. And he that sat was to look upon like a jasper and a sardine stone. And there was a rainbow round about the throne, in a sight upon the emerald. So when he was looked upon, he that sat on the throne was like a jasper and a sardine stone. All right. In Revelation, so we're going to have to go with the darker stone. Both would be represent a so-called black person. All right. Because I'm like the lighter one. All right. Even lighter than that, still brown. And then you have people who are dark and darker than the other one. The Lord was referred to as being very, very dark. A lot darker than this man on the screen who still has, who doesn't have woolly hair. All right. The Bible describes the hair of the pure wool in Daniel and in the book of Revelation, the first chapter. All right. And found it. That was the Lord, man. All right. And here's the one from the Oxford 1850. Let's see if I can make it larger. But it says, and this is definition C of wool. And it reads, the short, crisp, curly hair of a Negro. All right. The hair of the head. And then it gives you examples, to give you sentences from printouts from news magazines in this definition, this 1850 definition. I mean, from this book from 1850, and it says, and I'm going to show you this too, and it's giving you the London 1697, the London Gazette, number 3256. So you can go and find this in a library. A runaway Negro, a boy, the wool off the right side of his head about the breadth of a crown. The 1730 Southall Bugs, another newspaper, 6. Meeting with an uncommon Negro, the hair, or rather wool of his head, all right, beard and breast being as white as snow, just like it's described by the Lord. So let's put these into frame. All right, definition C of wool. From the Oxford, the short, crisp, curly hair of a Negro. All right. Let me make it a little bit smaller because I blew it up. All right. There it is, man. So woolly hair, this isn't woolly hair. All right, so we've corrected quite a few things along the way. All right, so here we go with some more.
Broad, wide noses. And fun fact, Jesus would have been between 5'5" and 5'6" because we love a short king.
Well, not because you love a short king. Simple fact that it's saying that also might have been a part of the curses. Although everybody was larger back then. But the fact is that the Basque, meaning the bodies that they found all over Europe, according to all these geologists and anthropologists that I was reading about, there's quite a few of them. They found a bunch of short guys around 5'6", 5'7", bodies buried with their animals, so-called black men with woolly hair, and women all over Europe. All right, and then you read about, paragraph 24 of Ben Franklin's letter from 1751, complaining about the blackness of Europe and how they don't want that to be the same here in the Americas, as the red people, the Edomites, so-called white man, made himself a home in America. So we've been lied to about everything, for the Bible to history. And she's helping to confirm that. All right.
So this whiteness associated with Christianity, not surprisingly, came from Europe, both in art forms, Da Vinci's very famous painting with a fun backstory, and Michelangelo's depiction of Christ, but also because Christians in Europe wanted to be able to justify colonialization.
Absolutely. She told 100% truth. All right. And they're, and from the time that they took over Europe, when they took it back over, when they came back, when Edom came back into power. And the rabbis are constantly telling you that modern day Christianity, Western Christianity, is Esau or Esau. All right. The rabbis, stay telling you that. Problem for the rabbis, though, is that they're Esau as well. But
so they began to associate Christianity with European descent and whiteness with purity. So therefore, it was not only their divine right, but their duty to colonize, subjugate, and exterminate pagan brown people.
That's very true. And right here, you heard me say that Europe sits in Asia. Well, here's the receipt, also from the 1850 Oxford Dictionary. All right, Eurasian. All right, make that smaller. I think I might have blew it up. Oh, no, that's perfect. All right, it says of or pertaining to Eurasia, all right, to Europe and Asia, considered as forming in reality one continent. So they took the landmass of Eurasia and split it into three parts. You got Asia, Eurasia, and the so-called Middle East. And that was all to try and protect and prove and try to protect and cover up and make a justification for the lie, which is whiteness. Because they're not white, they're red. As you can see, she's red. The Edomites are red people who took over, who got dominion a second time in Asia. First time through Alexander. All right, and then they became the Greeks. You notice in Christianity, they don't go into the Hellenistic period. All right, they go straight from the Assyrian captivity straight to Rome, and they leave the Greeks out of it because that's the Greek time was the time of the diaspora and the time of the Hellenization of the Israelites, and when many Israelites started calling themselves Greeks. Okay. And when things like this happen, let's go to Acts 6:1 real quick. It's amazing how much you can get out of a 2-minute video. All right, 2 minutes and 24 seconds, 34 seconds. All right. But this is Acts 6:1. And it says, and in those days, the number of disciples were multiplied. There arose a murmuring of the Grecians against the Hebrews, all right, because of their widows were neglected in the daily administration. And these Grecians were those Hellenistic Jades, those Hellenistic Judeans, all right, who had newly discovered that and awoken up to the fact that they were Israelites or were returning to following their own ways and leaving away the heathen ways. That's why there was the whole controversy between there is no difference between neither Jew nor Greek, because bloodline, physically and racially, they were the same people. And that's a very important detail that they leave out. Christianity completely left out the fact that there are two sets of Gentiles. That you have Gentiles that were Israelites in the flesh, who were just following after the ways of the Gentiles, and then you had actual Gentiles. And there is a difference between the two. All right. And so what they try to do is bring in, Christendom, or Christianism tries to have an inclusion of the heathen nations. No, and that's not what it is. And that's why they always use those particular scriptures while leaving out the context of that they were the same people.
There also became this idea about hereditary heathenism, that your religion was also inherited through your race, through your lineage, through your parents. And so anyone who was black or brown was by default a pagan, and then had to be...
No, because everyone was brown. The whole world was brown. All right. That, what she's talking about is that's the whole, new aged, new age European, so-called European portion of Asia, so-called white portion of Asia. That was where they made everything about color. The so-called white man did that. In the ancient world, the first millennium, no one cared about your skin complexion. They wanted to know, especially since the world had blended and mixed, people wanted to know your bloodline, who your father was. All right. That's what they want. That's how you were identified. That whole color thing was something that was created by so-called white people. All right. As a matter of fact, I have a receipt for that from even the AI said it. This is see, it says, this was AI was asked a question. Yes, the concept of black as a race is widely considered a social construct, meaning it's a category created and defined by social rather than biological reality. While physical characteristics like skin color exist, the way society categorizes the assigned meaning to these traits of human invention. So they invented it and assigned the meanings to it. And that was done by Esau Edom, the so-called self-proclaimed white man. In 1681, they started calling themselves white and put it into documentation and created this thing called black and whiteness. All right. And so, like I said, in the ancient world, the majority, and even now, the majority of the world is brown. So it wasn't about your skin color. It's about who your father was. All right. They wanted to determine your nationality and where you were from. Because guess what? You got brown Edomites, because you have Edomites that have planted their seed into women of color. All right. And vice versa. You got Edomite women who have made babies, have been impregnated and bear the children of men of color. And sometimes their children come out looking like the woman that's on the screen, but she has a so-called black or brown father. All right. So it's not about that color thing. They made it up. They made that shit up, man. All right. And then they put that shit on applications and they stand on it and they destroy or build up someone's life according to it. This is what they do because Esau Edom is a piece of shit.
Forcefully converted. Obviously, Aryan Jesus got a big boost in World War II in Germany for obvious reasons, but it's really about justifying white power and this idea of white is right. We also know that you get this particular shade of vampire when your ancestors come from countries that don't have a lot of sun, and your body needs to be able to absorb as much vitamin D as it can. I don't know if you've been to this region. Lots of sun. Very hot.
That, what she's talking about, is North Africa and Western Asia. And guess what? Esau is from there. He stayed in the shade in the mountains. Mount Seir is his home. So here again, what she's doing is regurgitating that bullshit scientific pseudoscience that was Darwinism. Okay? And then she's going to show you Europe, because the Esau Edom, the so-called white man, is not from Europe. He conquered Europe. He conquered Asia. He conquered those brown-skinned people that live there.
Not good for someone like me if SPF 1000 is not available. For obvious reasons, after World War II, open anti-Semitism not quite as popular, so there were some changes that white-presenting Jews who were included in white ranks in the military were able to qualify for the GI Bill and those benefits, while black soldiers were not. So
hence the reason for the black and white narrative that they created. She just dropped. That's the whole reason. Let's let her speak that portion again. She's almost done.
Military were able to qualify for the GI Bill and those benefits, while black soldiers were not. Me if SPF 1000 is not available. For obvious reasons, after World War II, open anti-Semitism not quite as popular, so there were some changes that white-presenting Jews who were included in white ranks in the military were able to qualify for the GI Bill and those benefits.
Actually, so J-ish people are white when it benefits them. And then when it doesn't, they scream that you're being semantic.
While black soldiers were not. So white Christians' commitment to white Jesus is really their commitment to their own image, to worshiping a God made in their own image, and their commitment to white supremacy. Jesus was brown, and you're either on board with that or you're wrong. Have the day you deserve.
And she was so right. Okay? She said you're either on board with that or you're not. He was olive colored. All right? So with that, I want to give all praises, all honor and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham.
My oldest daughter, Camilla, 2 days old, she had to have open heart surgery. All of a sudden, she's on 5 different medications. Go to RX, you can see.
All right, so with that, all praises, glory, and honor be unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakah, Quadash, Kwam, Yasharala, Abad, Babal.